Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your feedback. I thought rather than writing out my comments or responses or questions, that I would just return the favor of the videos and say hello to everybody and have this be a little bit more personal. And Emma, I wish I had made my video to way more personal. It was the first one that was posted, and then I saw everybody else's that they were sending me, and people took a lot more time and were being way more personal and conversational, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just kind of rushing through it and feeling like I was talking way too long, so sorry if my video to you felt rushed. Anyway, I just wanted to comment on some of the feedback you guys gave me. The overall resounding feedback that I got was you guys needed to know about my business. I think almost every single one, if not every single one of you, said that. And so it seems so obvious now. What actually happened with that, I had written in a lot more details about what was going on with my business and what happened. And I just, I was telling Shauna, I just don't think people are interested to hear all the like mundane, boring details. And so I had like 3 paragraphs explaining more about my business, and I cut it all out. I was like, this is too boring, this is too long, nobody wants to hear all this stuff. But it's very clear now, and now that you've all said it, it seems so obvious that you needed to know what the industry was. And without that, you felt completely disjointed and left out of the essay. And that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to explain some of that. First of all, like I said, I thought it was just like boring. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear these details. But one thing that I think a couple of you have said, and we've talked about this in class, that it's leaving out some details is a way to create some distance, to avoid vulnerability. And I've sat with that, and I really don't think that that's what I was trying to do. It was actually really surprising and a little disheartening, I'll admit, to hear so many of you say that you just didn't feel like I was showing myself, or that vulnerability piece, because to me it was just like I was just pouring my heart, this horrible, devastating situation out on the page. So that was a little shocking to hear that. But when you give your reasons why, not knowing the business is disconnecting, and my strategy of sort of just the non-italicized parts telling the story, while the more intimate parts are these like the italicized inserts, I can see how that's distancing. So I think I just need to get over my whole worry. I mean, as it was, I was worried that the essay just went on and on and on and on and on about my boring business failure. And so clearly I just need to really work on that, whatever that is. It's a huge struggle in my writing. I feel like my best writing comes when I'm staying in that just sort of off the cuff space. And so I really need to work on figuring out how to craft, like how to tell a story. And I think that when I take the class next semester, that's really going to help me figure out how to tell details, and keep it interesting and still maintain my voice. Which brings me to the next thing that you all gave me feedback on: almost concrete details, concrete details, concrete details. And I think that is really helpful, because that, I heard from you guys that will help you relate to me as a writer, and to the story, and keep you engaged. So that was really, really helpful feedback. So thank you for that. In terms of the drowning, the art of drowning, a couple of you really mentioned that it seems like, what's interesting is I was writing that piece while I was just realizing I was going to have to shut my business down. And, and I was writing one day and I realized I felt like I was drowning, and it brought up that memory that had happened like 15 years prior. That was not, I mean, it was a big deal at the time, but it wasn't, the story was not about the drowning. The story was about my business. And that obviously was not really clear because so many of you wanted more details about the drowning and wanted to know, like, or maybe that I start the whole essay with that. And so I think going back to the concrete details, if I gave you more details about my business closure, then you would know that it's about that. It's not about the drowning, the actual almost, potential drowning that happened in Hawaii. So another piece of really good feedback that was just confusing without those details. One of my biggest worries in losing my head was that the inserts, the italicized parts, were going to be too random and too tangential and too like not having anything to do with the rest of the story. Like, why are these even here? And I was really surprised that most of you, I think only one of you, gave me feedback that that was, it felt that way to you. Just like, what does this have to do with anything? That was interesting. I'm kind of going on about this because I'm just wondering if you guys, I'm not sure if everybody's going to listen to other people's feedback. And so I'm just to sort of let you guys know what other people said or wrote to me and see, because there actually was other parts in those tangential or the italicized pieces that I took out and that I could put back in. But anyway, maybe it's enough. So what else was I going to say? There was something else, but I don't really remember. I think the overall take home for me is that, yes, while my writing is poetic and lyrical and some of it can be beautiful, that without those details, it just kind of doesn't, it's almost like, well, and maybe you can correct me if I'm being too extreme or too hard on myself with this, but it's almost like it just doesn't matter. And this is kind of what I was talking about I think it was the very first day of class when I was saying my writing just doesn't, it doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything. And people were like, what, how can it not say anything? But I think that this has been my struggle all along, is that, I write it, I like to stay in this like space of ideas. I have this like, that I've talked about, this like stuff that just comes through, and it's all that very lyrical, metaphorical, but where I struggle is to make it into something that's going to matter to anybody. So it's encouraging to hear your feedback that concrete details will really help just like anchor the metaphor into reality and help my reader stay with me. But it's a little disheartening too, because it's how I write and it's all I really know. And whenever I try to craft pieces to bring it down to earth, it just, it's like the life gets sapped out of it. So, but that's where I get to just use your feedback of concrete details. Take a metaphor, bring it home with a concrete detail or two. Take a metaphor, bring it home with a concrete detail. And I guess cliffhanger, I should have said this at the very beginning. I actually thought everybody in the class knew, because I've mentioned it a couple times. I'm an acupuncturist, and so that's what my business was that fell apart. And yes, Lillian, I did go to school I did my pre-med for 4 years and then 4 years of Chinese medical school. And I can't really say much about what ended up happening, why it fell apart, because I have no idea. I honestly just don't have any idea. we thought maybe it was CBD products coming onto the market, which are very helpful for people. All of a sudden, we may be slamming the market at once, and people are all trying that first to see what that can help. And maybe they've seen what it can help and what it can't now, so they're starting to come back in. So I don't know. But anyway, yes, you guys do need to know what my industry was. You need to know what it looked like to be running it. You need to know what I loved about it so much, why I was so passionate about it. And yes, I can do that. I think I'm going to submit this piece again, if it's allowed, Shauna, to repeat the same piece twice in our next workshop, because I really want to rework this. Shauna had the idea, well, a couple of you actually mentioned putting the two pieces together. And so I am going to try to make it into even more of a complex essay by doing Shauna's idea of having 3 separate braids and joining in the art of drowning. And I will talk more about the industry, and I'll give more concrete details. And I'm really hoping that that makes a big difference for you guys all as readers. All right. Thanks again so much for everybody for taking the time to give me your awesome, very thoughtful feedback. And I don't know if this is an okay way to be posting my thoughts on your feedback. And Shauna, if it's not okay, then I can just, I figured here on out we would just be writing to each other. But I just wanted to say hi and thank you. And I hope you guys are all doing great. I am personally just not checking the news very often. My last was once every 2 days. Now I'm going to once every 3 days because it just makes me not feel good. So I'm trying to just keep feeling good, and I hope that you guys are all as well, and I hope that we do get a chance to be together again before the end of this semester. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye.